Now, when it came time for Breivik's pre-trial hearing, he demanded that he be allowed to wear his Knights Templar costume.
It is not a costume. It is a uniform.
This request was roundly rejected. Are you a fucking idiot? No. He was also disappointed that there were only 7 people present at the hearing, because phase 3 of his plan was entirely dependent on a media circus. But on this day, there were only court officials, lawyers, and Breivik himself present when he was charged. Now, when it comes to punitive measures in Norway, there is a wild misconception when it comes to their sentencing. Famously, Norway has a maximum penalty of 21 years in prison for any crime, including murder. But what people often ignore or just don't know about is that those 21 years can be extended indefinitely every 5 years for another 5 years if the convicted prisoner still represents a danger to society.
I mean, it's a massive pain in the ass that every 5 years we're going to have to hear from Anders Breivik, but that's how their system works.
We still got 8 years to go before that starts happening.
Oh, we've already heard from him twice. He was in 2022. He had another thing because they were allowed to, because technically he got a parole hearing at 11 years.
Yeah, well,
he gets to go because you have to serve 11 years.
Yeah, he sued for it. Yeah,
Yes.
We had to hear from Manson all the time.
But Manson was fun.
Well,
Manson's a funny guy.
Did we have to, or did we get to?
Yeah, we got to, man.
Yeah, where's Anders
Buddies and
Breivik's
Pixel
album?
Yeah. Exactly. At least Charles Manson had a skill.
Yeah.
You know, he was a beautiful voice.
Yeah. But when it came to Anders Breivik, he was almost sent to a hospital for the rest of his life instead of a prison. The only person who stopped that from happening was Anders Breivik. See, pre-trial, several forensic psychiatrists examined Breivik to see if he was responsible for his own actions or if he was legally insane when he did what he did.
They wanted him to be insane.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, during those interviews, Breivik was treated as if he was the most dangerous man in the world, what he always wanted. For the first 11 sessions, the psychiatrist refused to be left alone in a room with him, so he was placed in a corner with his arms shackled to his belt behind 3 tables while 2 guards looked on. On the 12th session, they locked Breivik in a plexiglass cube like he was fucking Magneto.
Yeah, he was getting off on all this. And he was, like, interrogating the psychologists.
Yeah.
He was, like, trying to ask them if they were Marxists, if they believed in multiculturalism, and they all just kind of, the withering looks of a bunch of people being like, so why would that be important to you?
Yeah.
Like, that's all they would do, you know, like, not giving them jack shit.
Turn it back on him.
Now, if you do something like this, aren't you crazy?
No.
You
a total crazy legally from what I have understand, my limited understanding, but it's mostly like you in that moment don't understand that what you're doing is wrong or like that you are so mentally ill.
Right?
No, yes he did.
No, he understood completely. Yeah, because he told the cops in the interrogation, like, it really sucks to take a human life. I wish I didn't have to do that. I feel bad for the parents. He knew that what he was doing was wrong. Completely. He just thought it was justified.
So he's a shithead who fancies himself a terrorist. He's a missionary style killer. So he had a plan. Like he had a whole thing that he was like trying to execute with them. The murders were something else. They weren't like, it's not like with a normal, like a regular quote unquote serial killer where it's sexually motivated or power motivated or one of these other type of things. Like it didn't come from inside. He believed, which I still like take it back because like I will never give him he likes being a terrorist. He wants to be called a terrorist. I will still call him a mass killer. But he knew what he was doing was bad. So he's not crazy.
But what is his mental condition then?
An asshole. He's a fucking asshole.
But lots of people are assholes.
He's clinically an asshole.
A narcissist. He has narcissistic personality disorder.
He's got something.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's not.
That's what he was diagnosed with. Was narcissistic personality disorder.
He's not too crazy.
The extreme.
Yes.
But as the psychiatrist spoke with him more and more, they came to believe that he was possibly a paranoid schizophrenic, and with good reason. Breivik regularly used self-styled terms like national Darwinist, suicidal humanism, and suicidal Marxist, which the doctors judged to be a part of a psychosis. And when I say with good reason, I mean that he showed all the markers of being a paranoid schizophrenic without actually being a paranoid schizophrenic.
Because he showed up acting as if he was the leader of a gigantic movement, this huge terrorist organization with thousands of members and sleeper cells, and that he was a sleeper cell, and that he did all this kind of shit, and also like this was all going to happen in the year 2040. Muslims were going to take over Europe, and saying all of this stuff, which is like, it's interesting because that's the core beliefs of these right-wing groups, but it's him just expressing them. They were all like, "Oh, this guy's fucking nuts." Meanwhile, like, no, that's like what a lot of people fully believe is happening.
Now, what is a Darwinist? Is that like someone who dresses like a turtle?
With the idea that only the strong can survive, and this idea that there's social Darwinism, which is a term that, and it was social that comes up a lot. That's again, it's a Nazi thought, and suicidal humanism. This is one of the dangers of his manifesto and what happened after the fact. Like, even I saying left-wing fascism is a small little blip or like of this like mistake type thing that allow you to talk about it. But suicidal humanism, I looked up all these terms to see where else they popped up. And the only other place that they popped up was this thing called the Chalcedon Foundation, which is what's called an American Christian Reconstructionist organization, which is all about how gay people should be executed, how unruly children should be executed, how like they want to bring and talk about Sharia law. Like it's exactly Sharia law, but it's Christian Sharia law. Okay. Like women should be not vote. Yeah. They should only be childbearing.
That entities. That fun term of Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, yeah.
Additionally, Breivik talked at length about a massive secret organization made up of Knights Templar cells, thousands of them, who were all ready to strike at any moment. Now, at this point, police had surmised that Breivik had acted alone, that no such network existed. Therefore, this organization was thought to be a schizophrenic fantasy. But what psychiatrists didn't take into account was that while the Knights Templar claim was a fantasy, it was more a wish than a belief, and his made-up terminology was simply the creation of a narcissist who believed that he was so smart that he could see the world in a way that no one else could.
The psychiatrist in the end said that she believed that he was the loneliest man she's ever met.
Yep.
Yeah, that that was like the thing that she mostly diagnosed him with, was just like this almost like a homicidal loneliness.
Mm-hmm. But when Breivik realized that he could be declared insane and therefore his manifesto would be sullied, he insisted that he be held accountable for his actions. This was in spite of the fact that he already knew that the vast majority of people thought that he, along with his uniforms, awards, decorations, and titles, were fucking ridiculous.
Everybody was roasting him.
Yeah. During his next round of interviews with psychiatrists, he toned down his rhetoric considerably, calling him a foot soldier instead of a messiah, claiming that everything he'd said before was just an act, a role that he felt he was expected to play. Therefore, Anders Breivik was judged to be a narcissistic personality disorder, and he was very much liable for his crimes then. In this, Anders Breivik played a similar game as his left-wing mirror image, male bomber Ted Kaczynski.
We realize they're kind of close.
They are the mirror image of each other.
Yeah,
they absolutely
living in the
are.
middle of nowhere, no friends.
Well, just the idea that they're smarter than everybody else and they're going to put their pain on everybody else because they don't get them.
But wasn't Ted Kaczynski actually smart?
Yeah. No, Ted Kaczynski was brilliant.
He was a genius. And then MK Ultra kind of fucked up his brain.
Yeah, and Anders Breivik, he wasn't actually smart.
No, he's an asshole.
No, he was an asshole and an idiot. Yeah. So
So he's worse than him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go America!
Well, when Kaczynski's lawyers told him that his only possible defense was to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, Kaczynski refused and took the maximum punishment so he could maintain the integrity of his manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future.
And there's a lot of people that rag on him for his spelling errors inside of his manifesto. But I also want to say, you guys ragging us for mispronunciations, and you're kind of missing the point. That's the problem here, right? Is that you're missing the point of the manifesto.
You're not seeing the forest for the trees.
Read it again.
So you're comparing yourself to Anders Breivik?
No,
he's comparing himself to Ted Kaczynski. But while Kaczynski was quickly tucked away in Colorado's Supermax prison, never to be heard from again.
We did a good job on that one.
Yeah, just fucking
put him in a box.
Put him there with Timothy McVeigh and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Let them all enjoy each other's company. What a fun lunch that must be.
Anders Breivik got a full trial in which he was given a platform to espouse his extremist right-wing agenda.
Or he thought he was going to get
a
chance to do it.
What Breivik didn't expect, though, was that the trial was not broadcast, and not a single person in the room took him seriously. In fact, most everyone was visibly bored and highly impatient anytime he went off on a tedious rant, which was often.
It's the coolest. That's that's where they rock, which is it's a room. It's a room of graphic designers, because like they all have like the clear glasses. Like Norway, everybody's like very fashionable and cool and technology. And like them all just seem like arms crossed, just like tell me when he's over.
Just so many.
Did you see the judge sigh? The judge is like, let's go ahead.
Yeah, if anything, Breivik's own actions during his trial was what helped defang him, because he showed everyone just how small he really was. Now, the prosecution maintained that Breivik was a madman who had lost it 5 years earlier after he quit the Progress Party, shut down his diploma mill, lost all his money, moved back in with his mother, and disappeared into World of Warcraft.
Didn't help.
Nope. They also showed his quote-unquote film, which I will now reveal why I say quote-unquote film, was because it was a fucking slideshow.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie, it was a slideshow.
It's hard, man. Editing's hard.
It was 99 images. It was like Soviet troops taking Berlin. You're like, this is the beginning of cultural Marxism. You know, it's photoshopped images of Muslim women pregnant with grenades.
That's impossible.
Pictures.
That can't happen.
Pictures of refugees entering Europe, so on and so forth. And as a soundtrack, Breivik used church music, European electronica, and the soundtrack from the PC game Age of Conan.
He used the soundtrack from a PC game.
While everyone else in the court was just sort of puzzled over this glorified 2011 YouTube dump, Breivik openly wept as his quote-unquote film was shown in open court. And this really made me rethink 2010 to 2012 YouTube.
Oh, sure.
Because, we used to show,
I love those slideshows. We used to show those all the time.
At our old live shows, that we used to do back in Queens, where we would just show videos. Every month, we had a new fucking piece of bullshit that was just like this. And it never occurred to me that the people who posted them were taking it deadly seriously.
I never thought of it.
And they thought it was the best thing that anyone had ever produced.
That it meant a lot to them.
It meant so much.